I'm here to talk a little bit about leadership as I've experienced it and as I've known it. I first became sort of acquainted with leadership as a major theme or topic when I was amazed and was selected as a White House Fellow a number of years ago. I don't know if you've heard of this program, but it is the nation's premier leadership and public service program, and I highly recommend it to you. I think there's no better way to learn about leadership up close and firsthand than to have an experience of working with a principal for a year in Washington, D.C., someone who is a cabinet secretary or head of a White House office or an executive branch agency like the FBI. It is a remarkable experience to work closely with someone at that high level in government. It's also got an education program that puts you in touch with outstanding leaders from all walks of life, both in Washington, D.C., and leaders that you'll meet on some of the trips, both domestically and foreign. And it's a fantastic network of former White House fellows. It was a program founded by John Gardner, who also created Common Cause and was the former president of the Carnegie Corporation of New York. So please look that up. The White House Fellows Program is where I started thinking about leadership as something you can learn, something that you can do, and something that you can be. When I was practicing law and then became a judicial officer, I also saw other ways in which leadership was expressed. And I had the honor of meeting some of the most outstanding lawyers and judges in the country. I was chair of the Commission on Women in the Profession for the American Bar Association, a commission whose very first chair was none other than Hillary Rodham Clinton. So it was a very prominent opportunity to help promote and advance women lawyers throughout the country. I had another chance to see what leadership was like when I was joining the senior team at New York University, courtesy of the incoming president, John Sexton, who had been the dean of the law school at NYU for a number of years and brought it to great renown. When he recruited me, I remember thinking, I wonder why he's doing this. I'm a lawyer right now. I don't think I've been in academia, really. I mean, I had been involved in the American Bar Association's Legal Education Council, which is where we first met, but I was asking him, so what would I do? Would I be general counsel, your lawyer? He said, no, you wouldn't do that. I said, well, what would I do? He said, I don't know. And I said, well, where would I work? He said, I don't know. Then I asked him, just for fun, how much money would I make? And he said, Diane, I don't know, but it'll be a lot less than you're making now as a lawyer. And I thought, this is either the best or the worst recruiting technique I've ever heard, but it intrigued me. And what intrigued me was partly what I might be able to do in the academic setting that I couldn't actually do in the legal profession, and I was curious as to why he wanted me to do this. So I actually accepted the job not knowing what I was going to do, because near the end of his 4-month recruiting courtship phase, he said, you know, we'll probably create some new jobs as I become president, and you would have your first pick of any of the new jobs, and if you don't like any of them, you can design your own job. And that's why I accepted, and I did design my own job, first as chief of staff, which was a new thing for a president of a university. It now is fairly common because he says he's been advertising it to all of his colleagues, and they're now chiefs of staff for most of the university presidents in the Association of American Universities. And I now am deputy president, which is a wonderful catch-all job where I get to do a lot of things that a university president does. But because he can't be in multiple places at the same time, I have a chance to interact with trustees and deans and students and faculty, my fellow administrators. And it's a remarkable experience to be surrounded by so many terrific people. But one of the best things that happened, because I had it in the back of my mind ever since I was a White House Fellow, was the chance at the invitation of the Dean of the College of Arts and Science at NYU to teach a class. And when he said, what do you want to teach? I said, leadership. I'd love to teach a class on leadership. So what you're going to get today is a little bit of a distillation of what I've been teaching since 2002 at NYU in leadership. I also have leadership classes I teach in our campuses in Abu Dhabi and Shanghai. And through all of these different experiences, I've come to see that there are a number of common themes that I think this audience of women seeking ways to advance and propel themselves even further forward and ahead might benefit from, or at least I hope so. And I assume you'll tell me if it doesn't help you. First of all, And this is some of what both Terry and Anita touched on. What I've discovered about leadership is that it's very critical that you just communicate and communicate and communicate. You know, if the mantra for real estate brokers is location, 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 I think for good lawyers and leaders, communication is essential. Because people today don't want to just wait and find out. It's like if you're on an airplane and there's a delay, you want to hear the captain tell you what's happening. You almost don't care what it is. You just don't want to be in the dark. That's how it feels if your leader doesn't communicate with you. You don't feel good. You don't feel as though you're engaged, or you don't feel as though you count. So communication is something people don't do enough of, and communication not just in what is happening and why, but also what you don't know and why, where you need help and how, and to thank and praise people. Certainly people don't do enough of these things as a general rule, but this audience, I think, can change that, because this is something, I think, that all of us feel and experience in our lives, and as leaders, you can change this by making your mantra that you will communicate and you'll be honest about that. So to do this well, 3 things. Be brutal about your own self-assessment as to how good you are at communicating. Get advice from people who are not afraid to tell you you're not that good, why you're not that good. If you're not concise, if you're not clear, if you don't know how to present an argument, if you don't know how to be logical, learn how to do those things. That's all something you can practice. If you have the content but poor delivery, that also can be improved. Your mirror is your best friend. Practice in front of a mirror, or if you have someone willing to videotape you, get yourself videotaped and see, do you look up there? Are you looking at your feet? Are you mumbling? Are you doing strange things with your hands? Delivery is something you can definitely improve. And finally, watch other people who give speeches. Famous people, they're all on YouTube. Not so famous people whom you think actually have a wonderful way of connecting with audiences. So communication is number 1. Number two is, this is a big area, confidence, and we've already heard some ideas about confidence very aptly said by Anita just now. But for me, confidence includes not just knowing your stuff, not just being equipped and prepared, but also being confident enough to admit what you don't know, to admit that you often make mistakes, and to encourage others to have confidence in themselves. It seems kind of ironic in a way, but the more you help other people, the more they think you're the great leader, when in fact, they are the ones who are helping themselves do good things. But you're encouraging them, and you're building their confidence, and they, in fact, turn around and give you the confidence that you are as good as you could be. So confidence is very critical, but it has these elements that aren't just your own self-improvement, but how you interact with others. Because if you think about it, confidence is innately connected with people. You're not confident all by yourself in your room. You're confident interacting with other people. So it helps if you have a positive attitude. It helps if you like being around people. But even if you're more of an introvert and get more of your energy from being alone, you can still convey your trust and respect and regard for people when you are with them. And that will give you and show to them the kind of confidence as a leader you want to have. The third thing is courage. Courage to me has multiple elements. Certainly, I have found that being in leadership roles from time to time is lonely. It can be isolating. You can find that the decisions you're making, because leadership is all about action. It's not what's in your head, it's what you do. It's what you do with others to accomplish common goals. But sometimes your decisions will be questioned, criticized, attacked. You will disappoint people. People whom would feel you need to be loyal to them and their interests will be shocked that you aren't following them because you think something else is really the best for the group, the best for the organization, the best for the company. That's where if you're good at the communication and confidence, you can explain what you did. You can show the factors that went into your decision. You can share the doubts or and your pros and cons analysis, and you can help persuade them. You can help convince them. It may not take away all of the criticism, but if you want to be a leader, you should develop what I call the asbestos skin, because it's going to hurt once in a while if you are always going to try to do the right thing, if you are going to try to follow your belief system. So that moves me on to the next sort of theme I try to talk about with my classes, and that's integrity. I got this from my father, I think, who was the first foreign-born, foreign-educated president of the American Heart Association. He always said, if your character and honor were true and straight, all good things will happen. If they are not, you might be lucky once in a while, but it's going to catch up with you. So it's much better to be able to sleep well at night, knowing that you tried to do your best. You tried to follow a value system. You tried to be an honorable, trustworthy person. Because if you think about it, what kind of leaders do you believe in? Ones you can trust. Most of us run away from leaders who are not worthy of our respect and trust. Because if we are going to work with a leader, we are investing our time and energy in what he or she is doing. So if you have the integrity and moral character to be able to identify what your core values are, to be able to communicate those and make them part of your life and part of the way you do things, as a leader or as a follower or as a teammate, you're going to be much better off in every way. Another important aspect I try to point out to my students is intelligence. And for me, intelligence falls into three basic categories. First is sort of the general intelligence of knowledge, of having information, of being able to adapt to it, learn it, acquire it, and share it. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room, but you have to be able to recognize the smart people in the room, and you want to have them around you. You want to surround yourself with smart people who have views that may be different from yours, maybe more bold, maybe more creative, maybe more entrepreneurial, maybe more conventional, whatever. But you should look for diversity of thought within your team, and you should do your best to be as well prepared as possible. Maria Bartiromo, many of you know as a leading journalist, was the first woman journalist on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, which you can imagine was pretty much a male domain. And the way she overcame the resistance that men had, because it was a men's club, was, quote, "I knew my stuff. They couldn't touch me if I knew my stuff," unquote. So if you know your stuff, that's going to be a big help. The second kind of intelligence is what is loosely called, or often called, emotional intelligence, is critical also. That means you have an understanding of your own emotions, you have an ability to regulate your emotions, you have an awareness and sensitivity to others' emotions, and you know how to act on this knowledge. Please develop your emotional intelligence. It's going to be very critical to you. And the third kind of intelligence is about yourself, your health, wellness, well-being, fun, relaxation, all those sorts of things. If you don't take good care of yourself, you're not going to be good to anybody as a leader because you won't have the energy to be a leader. So take good care of yourself in that sense, in that whatever it is, whether it's exercise or yoga or traveling or whatever else, that gives you a sense of refreshment and rejuvenation, keeps you energetic, that's going to be very important. The final piece of leadership lessons I would pass on was in the area of inspiration. Because we all have talked about a leader with vision who can articulate it and can make it real for people. I have found that people want to feel good about what they're doing, and they want to feel that what they're doing is good. So if you are an inspirational leader, you can achieve the kind of change and transformation with the help and assistance and guidance that others can contribute. But you have to be able to say, this is what we're striving for. This is why we're striving for it. And this is what you can do to contribute to it. So I think part of leadership is certainly knowing yourself and developing yourself. And part of leadership is knowing how to work with other people to get the tough, difficult, complex, interrelated things done. Because as I said in the end, leadership is about action. Leadership is about group, collective, activity for a common purpose and a common goal. The final image I'd leave you with is of geese. You know, they all fly south in the winter in a sort of V formation. I used to wonder, why do they do that? And it's because that V formation provides about a 71% longer flying range because of the uplift from the powerful flapping of the wings. You can imagine, however, if you're at the point, you're going to be the goose that has the most wind resistance to bear. So the geese are intelligent beyond belief. They rotate that position so that the leader doesn't get tired out, and they share the burden, they share the responsibility of being in the lead. If a goose is injured, it will fly down accompanied by 2 other geese, recover on land, and then they will, when the goose recovers, rejoin the flock or form a new one. I mean, it is a collaborative, collective, goal-oriented, and very communicative system that the geese have worked out for themselves. And if you forget everything else, just remember the geese. And remember, we can do this too, because women have to work together to do this. We have to work with men to do this. We have to build in our children the thought about the importance of advancing women and accelerating their leadership opportunities. It's going to be for the good of us all, and for that, I think it's worth the effort to try to change history. Thanks very much.